Chris, go and stand up for me. I'm going to have you face that wall over there. Just face it.
Morning of August 15, 2018, Frederick, Colorado, a seemingly peaceful morning but with a terrible truth hidden. Police approached a man standing calmly on his porch. No one expected that in a few hours he would be exposed for who he really was. The officer's commanding voice sounded calm, but clearly he was in control of the situation. Chris walked away without protest, but the silence only made the atmosphere colder.
Okay, go and face me.
Just before being led away, Chris's eyes searched for a last chance to escape, but the law had already closed in. That false calm was about to be exposed by undeniable evidence.
Okay, you don't have anything on you, right? Okay, nothing in your pockets? Okay, go and face that other wall behind you. I'm just going to search you real quick. Spread your legs. Further.
Chris complied without resistance. This obedience was not out of remorse, but a cold facade to hide the crime committed less than 48 hours ago. Shannon Watts, 34, was 15 weeks pregnant with a baby boy. She lived with her husband, Chris Watts, and their two daughters, Bella, 4, and Celeste, 3, in Frederick, Colorado. They were known to neighbors as a seemingly happy family. But inside the house, things were starting to fall apart. Early morning of August 13, 2018, after a business trip to Arizona, Shannon returned home at 1:48 a.m. A peaceful moment under the streetlights, but it was the last time the camera captured her image. This image later became important evidence. That night, no one knew that the tragedy had begun as soon as she set foot in the house. That same afternoon, when Shannon didn't respond to her texts or calls, her best friend Nicole Atkinson began to worry. She decided to go check on her and found Shannon's car still in the garage, along with all her personal belongings. Nicole Atkinson had a feeling something was wrong and called 911.
County Communications, this is Stacy.
Hi, Stacey. My name's Nicole, and I'm calling because I'm concerned about a friend of mine. I dropped her off at her house at 2 in the morning last night because we were out of town together, and we were on the way back from the airport, and she was having issues, and she's pregnant, and I haven't been able to get a hold of her this morning, and I've gone to her house, and her car's there, and stuff like that, but she won't answer the door, she won't answer phone calls, she won't answer text messages, and I'm just really, really concerned. And she had a doctor's appointment this morning, and she didn't go to it, and I don't know what to do. I've called him and talked to him, and he said that she went on a play date with her other two daughters, but, like, if she went on a play date, they're both in car seats. Why would she not take her car?
Nicole's voice was urgent and strained. Her instincts told her this was not normal, and her instincts were horrifyingly correct.
Alrighty, we do have a call in. Nicole, we'll have an officer come out that way as soon as we can. I would just advise you, to not try to make entry into the house or anything like that until the officers can get there. In the meantime, if you do hear from her, just give us a call back and let us know, okay?
Okay.
After receiving the call from Nicole Atkinson, the 911 operator quickly confirmed the address and situation. The threat was assessed as urgent, and a patrol was immediately dispatched to Saratoga Trail.
So, Chris, it's your house. You can go inside with us if you'd like, or you could stay out here. It doesn't matter to us.
Doesn't matter. I mean, free reign, just whatever you got to do.
Okay.
Like, I can chill on the decks on the side of the sun. But
okay.
Cool.
All right. Whatever you'd like. How long have you guys been married?
So, we've been together 8 years, married 6 this year.
Okay. And this is very unusual behavior?
Yeah, we can get that dog out of here.
Okay.
She's gonna flip.
When officers arrived, Chris Watts was standing next to his car in front of the house. He quickly walked to the front door, unlocked it, and led everyone inside. Inside the house, the officer walked from the living room to the master bedroom. The bed was empty, no sign of Shannon or the girls.
The only thing they're missing are the kids' blankets.
What's that?
The only thing that's gone is the kids' blankets, like the binkies. That's why they won't go anywhere without them.
So they are gone?
Yep.
The officer's voice faded. In the room filled with the colors of children, the absence of laughter made the atmosphere heavier.
So she doesn't have any family or anyone around here?
Neither of us do. They're all back in North Carolina. We moved here back in 2012. Came out here to visit some friends during Thanksgiving, fell in love with the place, moved out.
After searching around the house, Chris took the officer to check the neighbor's CCTV. The images from the CCTV would reveal what happened during the fateful time.
What's that?
Nothing on there. We usually park out there on the side. I just want to get everything back in. Be easier, so lugging everything out there, all the tools that I had to bring in.
And it doesn't look like he came from back here. It looks like he came from down the street. And then the other thing that doesn't make sense is why would he pull past this part? You can see him pull past.
Are you able to record this?
I'd have to call Comcast so I can get him to do whatever. But watch this and then get out. And he walks back and forth a couple times.
Chris held his head and stood to one side. His body tensed as the video played. No one in the room knew they were watching him dispose of his wife and child's bodies. 14:05 August 13, 2018. Immediately after leaving the neighbor's house, the officer returned to the porch to continue questioning Chris Watts. He confirmed that he had left the house at 5:15 a.m. and that Shannon was still there. His voice was even and unhesitating, but when he said she was still here, Chris's eyes darted away, avoiding direct contact. The officer turned to ask about Shannon's car, personal belongings, and communications during the day. Chris calmly said that she might have gone somewhere with friends, but in the garage, the Lexus was still parked, and Shannon's familiar sneakers were still in place. As they talked, Chris answered as he entered the house, leading them through the living room and kitchen. He showed the officer the bedroom, saying that the sheets were in the wash and that Shannon's closet was still intact. Nicole stood in the doorway, her eyes constantly scanning the space, as if searching for any clues. The police took note of every detail, from the lingering scent in the bedroom to the items that hadn't been put away. When they stepped out into the garage, the officer asked about Chris's schedule that morning, and he repeated his story of leaving early to work at a construction site. Chris's answers seemed prepared, neither too much nor too little, but lacking the confusion one usually associates with someone worried about a missing loved one. Everything seemed reasonable on the surface, but to those standing there, the sense of unease was growing. Shannon's silence wasn't just confusing, it was becoming a sign of something worse. On the morning of August 15, 2018, Chris Watts was summoned to the interrogation room at the Frederick Police Station. After 2 days of cooperating with the search, he sat alone in the bright white room, his hands clasped tightly as if to keep himself from collapsing. The air was so quiet that the air conditioner could be heard clearly, and when the door opened, the investigator walked in with a thick file, his every gesture showing that he was preparing for a real confrontation. Chris raised his head at the greeting, but the investigator's eyes quickly scanned over it, taking in every little reaction. A few minutes later, the first question focused on the time frame he had given earlier. Chris avoided direct eye contact, bowed slightly, and answered in a monotone voice. Shannon had come home at 2 in the morning, he had left for work at 5:15, and when he returned, his wife and 2 daughters were gone. It sounded like a logical sequence, but the investigator knew that the CCTV footage from the neighbor's house they had seen the day before told a different story. In this closed space, every pause between answers was noticed, like a small crack in the defensive wall. As time passed, the questions became more urgent, but no longer the gentle probing style as before. Chris began to shrink, his back hunched, his hands clasped together on the table, his shoulders shaking slightly. The investigator placed a family photo in front of him, Shannon smiling, Bella and Celeste hugging their mother. The air was heavy, and then Chris spoke, his voice hoarse. He would tell the truth, he would tell what had happened. It was the first time during the entire interrogation that his eyes were directed directly at the investigator, no longer avoiding. The testimony opened a completely different scenario. According to Chris, when he went downstairs, Shannon was attacking Celeste and he lost control and attacked. It was a cold accusation, a story designed to cast himself as a reaction to the tragedy rather than an initiator. The investigator did not immediately rebut but listened, leaving room for Chris to continue his narrative. Finally, he said that he had taken Shannon's body to the truck and driven it to the oil field where he worked. The makeshift graveyard he had chosen for his wife was a shallow pit in the ground. The two girls had been dumped in an oil tank just a few meters away. There were no tears, no apologies, just fragmented, naked descriptions. Each word he spoke was a knife that cut deeper into the horror of the case, turning the interrogation room into a place where any illusion of a loving husband and father had been completely erased. November 19, 2018, Weld County Courtroom, Colorado. After more than 3 months of investigation and hours of tense trial, the moment finally arrived. The courtroom held its breath, the victim's family held hands, and Chris Watts sat motionless. 3 consecutive life sentences without parole, the verdict would close a dark chapter, but the wounds he left behind would never heal.
Your Honor, justice demands the maximum sentence under the agreement reached by the parties. As you will recall, the agreement calls for life sentences as to Shanann, Bella, and Celeste, and all of those to run consecutively to one another. It also calls for the count of unlawful termination of a pregnancy as to Nico to run consecutively to counts 1, 2, and 3. I would suggest that the extreme aggravation present in the defendant's conduct and in the efforts that I have described mandate that the sentences for counts 7, 8, and 9, the tampering with the deceased human body, each be the maximum of 12 years, and that those sentences run consecutively to one another. It is very clear that each of these acts, that these were not the subject of one act, but each oil tank that he walked up with his daughter's bodies and the hole that he dug for his wife and unborn son mandate a mandatory consecutive sentence.
Words that come to mind when I hear the evidence in this case are a senseless crime and the viciousness of the crime. And equally aggravating in this court's determination is the despicable act of disposing of the bodies in the manner in which they were done in this case. I've been a judicial officer now for starting my 17th year, and I could objectively say that this is perhaps the most inhumane and vicious crime that I have handled out of the thousands of cases that I have seen. And nothing less than a maximum sentence would be appropriate, and anything less than the maximum sentence would depreciate the seriousness of this offense. So the court is going to sentence Mr. Watts as follows. With regard to count number 1, murder in the first degree as it relates to Shanann Watts, the court is going to sentence you, sir, to a life sentence in the Colorado Department of Corrections, followed with no possibility of parole. And that is going to run consecutively to all but counts 3 and 4. With regard to count 2, as it relates to murder in the first degree with Bella, the court is going to sentence you to life in the Colorado Department of Corrections with no possibility of parole. With regard to count number 3, the court is going to sentence you as it relates to Celeste to life in the Colorado Department of Corrections with no possibility of parole. with regard to counts 4 and 5 relating to Bella and Celeste as a different theory of first-degree murder, the court is going to sentence you to life in the Colorado Department of Corrections, and legally those sentences must run concurrently as a different theory of first-degree murder.
The judge's voice echoed clearly, as if nailing the murderer's fate to the nail. Chris did not shed a tear, but his empty eyes sent chills through the room. That was the fate of someone who chose to destroy his family instead of protect it. Betrayal and domestic violence never happen overnight. They are often insidious, growing out of disrespect, lies, and selfishness. If the warning signs had been taken seriously early on, this tragedy might not have happened. Don't stay silent if you see someone spiraling into violence or emotional control. Speaking up can save lives.